Take a look at this, the simple white and green cup. For decades, it was more than just coffee. It was a symbol. It was a symbol of consistency. You could find it in a sprawling metropolis or a quiet suburban town, and the product was always the same. It was a symbol of connection. It became the world's third place. Not home, not work, but the space in between. It was the mobile office, the first date, the morning ritual. And globally, for a long time, that cup was a symbol of American culture itself. It was the tangible, accessible part of the American dream. It represented success, aspiration, in a globalized world. But that myth, that symbol, is now shattering. Those familiar green lights are going out. The company has confirmed a massive restructuring plan. This plan includes the closure of over 400 stores across North America. It includes the elimination of over 2,000 jobs, affecting both corporate roles and in-store partners. This isn't a minor adjustment. This is a retreat. The financial data confirms the crisis. The 2025 fiscal year has been brutal. Starbucks reported serious sales declines in its most important market, North America, with both the first and fourth quarters showing negative growth. This is the Starbucks collapse. The obvious vs. the real story. Now, Wall Street analysts will give you a list of conventional reasons. They blame persistent inflation. They blame a high-priced menu that consumers can no longer afford. They blame a shift in the tastes of a younger generation. And they are not entirely wrong, but that is only half of the story. The real story is deeper, and it's far more concerning. The truth is, this American icon was critically wounded by the very policies designed to protect America. What happens when a symbol of American culture decline is weakened, not by a foreign competitor, but by its own system? And more importantly, who is standing ready to fill the vacuum? The economic story, the self-inflicted wound. Part 1, the promise of protection. To understand the Starbucks collapse, you have to go back to the trade war. A promise was made to the American people. The promise was that tariffs, taxes on imported goods, would protect American industries. They would shield American workers and bring manufacturing jobs back home. In theory, it would force global competitors to play fair. But in the complex, interconnected economy of the 21st century, that theory has backfired. The policy of protection has become a self-inflicted wound. Part 2, the coffee bean dependency. Here is the fatal flaw in the plan. America does not grow coffee. The United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, confirms that domestic coffee production, almost entirely from Hawaii, accounts for less than 1% of all American consumption. We are a nation entirely dependent on imports. Starbucks, like every other major roaster, relies on a global supply chain, especially from Brazil and Colombia. When a massive 50% tariff was slapped on Brazilian goods, the cost of Starbucks' single most essential raw material skyrocketed overnight. There was no American alternative to buy. You cannot buy American for coffee. The data is staggering. In 2024, government data from Hawaii showed that its specialty green coffee beans cost an average of $27.42 per pound. During that same period, the global composite price, what Starbucks might pay for its Brazilian or Colombian beans, was just $2.40 per pound. That is not a 10% difference. It is more than 11 times the price. There was no pivot. There was no alternative. The cost had to be absorbed. Part 3, the ripple effect. But the crisis didn't stop at the coffee bean. The tariffs hit everything else in the global supply chain. The steel used to build the espresso bars, the high-end espresso machines imported from Italy, the paper for the cups, the plastic for the lids, the furniture for the lobbies. Every single piece of the ecosystem became more expensive, tangled in a web of new taxes. A single policy, designed to punish competitors, ended up weaponizing costs against the very American companies it claimed to defend. This wasn't protection. This was a siege from within. Part 4, the inevitable retreat. Starbucks was caught in an economic vice. On one side, its costs were exploding due to tariffs. On the other side, Its customers were squeezed dry by the very inflation those tariffs helped create. The result was inevitable. Cut the baristas' hours, freeze budgets, lay off 2,000 employees, close over 400 stores. Publicly, the company leadership called this a strategic restructuring or a transformation plan. But Wall Street analysts and the thousands of employees suddenly without a paycheck saw the truth. This was not growth. This was a desperate strategic retreat. The protectionist policy had not protected anyone. It had succeeded only in hollowing out one of America's most visible industries. The soft power war, the real battleground. Part 1. Defining the real stakes. But this story is much bigger than economics. If you only look at the balance sheets, you are missing the real battleground. This is a story about soft power. What is U.S. soft power? It is not the power of armies or the power of the dollar. It is the power of attraction. It is the ability of a nation to make the rest of the world want what it wants. It is the cultural magnetism that pulls people in without coercion or force. It's Hollywood movies. It's American music. It's Levi's jeans. And for decades, it was Starbucks. Part 2. Starbucks as American influence. For decades, a Starbucks store opening in a new country, especially in China, was more than just a new business. It was a cultural event. It wasn't just selling coffee. It was selling an aspiration. It was selling an image of American success, of global connection, of a free, open, liberal lifestyle. Each store was a small outpost of American influence. It was, in its own way, a form of cultural diplomacy. It was the daily, tangible face of globalization led by America. Part 3. The rise of the rival. And as Starbucks began to stumble, a rival was waiting. That rival is Luckin Coffee. To understand what is happening, you must understand that Luckin is not just a cheap copy. It is a domestic champion. While Starbucks is closing stores, Luckin is expanding at a staggering rate, now operating over 20,000 locations across China. Starbucks, by comparison, has just over 8,000. Luckin's model is built for modern China. It is tech-driven, entirely app-based, and relentlessly affordable. Most importantly, it is protected by and integrated into the Chinese system. Part 4. The insulated system. And here is the devastating irony. While American tariffs were strangling Starbucks' global supply chain, the Chinese system was insulating Luckin from those same shocks. Luckin roasted its beans in new, state-of-the-art domestic facilities. It used local supply chains. It leveraged government support. It turned the trade war into its ultimate home field advantage. The result was a market inversion. Starbucks' market share in China collapsed from 34% in 2019 down to just 14% by 2024. The brand that was once the ultimate status symbol became an unaffordable luxury. The local rival, Luckin Coffee, became the new everyday brand for the modern Chinese consumer. This is what China's soft power looks like. It starts not by projecting outwards, but by dominating inwards. Part 5. The white flag. The final proof of this shift came just days ago. In early November 2025, Starbucks waved the white flag. The company announced it was selling a 60% controlling stake of its China retail business to a Chinese private equity firm, Boyu Capital. The official statement said Starbucks needed deep local knowledge and expertise to survive. But analysts were more blunt. Chinese consumers now prefer homegrown brands. This was not a partnership. This was an admission of defeat. It was the moment an American cultural icon had to sell control to a local rival just to stay in the game. The American brand perception had been fundamentally broken. The vacuum in the future, the true cost. Part 1. The soft power vacuum. Geopolitics, like nature, abhors a vacuum. When American influence recedes, something else will always rush in to fill the space. The Starbucks collapse in China is not just a loss of market share. It is a loss of cultural share. The world is watching a real-time case study. They see an American icon, vulnerable and retreating. They see a Chinese champion, resilient, tech-forward, and expanding. The message being sent globally is powerful. The American model is fragile, while the Chinese model is self-sufficient and strong. Part 2. The eroding leadership. What we are seeing is the decoupling of the global economy, but it is also the decoupling of cultural influence. The very isolationist policies designed to make America great again are, ironically, accelerating the American culture decline on the world stage. And the data is starting to reflect this new reality. In 2025, for the first time, the American passport dropped out of the top 10 most powerful passports in the world. An analyst from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS, called this a direct reflection of an isolationist mindset. We are, in effect, voluntarily dismantling the pillars of influence that took us decades to build. Part 3. Resonance Point. The 2025 Brand Finance Index, which ranks global soft power, still places the United States at number 1. But it comes with a critical warning. China, which has now surged to the number 2 spot, is advancing faster. America is still the leader, but it is losing momentum. China is the challenger, and it is accelerating. So we must ask the question, when an American icon like Starbucks is forced to sell control just to survive in a foreign market, is that just a business loss? Or is America losing its global identity? What symbol do you think truly defines American culture to the world today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The flywheel, the next battleground. Part 1. The pattern. The fall of a coffee shop is a symptom. It is a symptom of this much larger shift in cultural power. It is a pattern that is repeating itself. We see it in Hollywood, which is struggling to compete with local content in Asia. And we are seeing it, most dangerously, in technology. The battle for U.S. soft power is no longer just being fought in cafes. Part 2. The next investigation, CTA. It is being fought in your pocket. In our next video, we will investigate how China is challenging Silicon Valley. Not with hardware, but with the software and platforms, like TikTok, that are now defining global culture. Thank you for watching.